Hi, my name is Aaron Thibodeau, and I'm doing my video presentation on the Fall Experimental Football League, or FXFL for short. The FXFL is a developmental football league that helps develop players, coaches, and referees in order to prepare them for the future in the NFL. It currently consists of 4 teams, and the season started in October. Here's a short clip of some highlights from some of the games.
Boyd fakes it under pressure, fires downfield, trying to find a man in the end zone. He does! Touchdown! Boston scores first. Cam White. Not a ton of pressure, little time, fires, has a man open! 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Darrell Walker! Here on a 3rd and 10, applying the pressure on Jordan Jefferson, who fires downfield for the touchdown! He did it again!
That video highlighted some of the top plays from the FXFL and showed off some of the college athletes that were not quite ready for the NFL, but still have potential to make it someday. So some of the goals of the FXFL is to become the minor league system of the NFL. Currently, the NBA has the D-League, which they use to develop players. The MLB has minor league baseball, which they use to bring up players, and they can stash players and move them up, back and down when their injuries occur and different things. The NFL currently has no farm system of sort. Players in the Fall Experimental Football League will be paid $1,000 per week, or about $1,000 per game. Let's look at some of the pros that the FXFL has as a developmental league for the NFL. This last year in the NFL draft, we saw 98 underclassmen declare for the NFL draft. In 2013, there were 73 of such, 65 in 2012, and 56 in 2011. 36 of those 98 went undrafted. That's a big number. So nearly almost 40% of the underclassmen that declared for the NFL draft got undrafted. There could be many reasons why the NFL chose not to draft these underclassmen, but 2 main reasons stick out to me. First is they weren't developed enough to be ready for the NFL. And the second is because they had character issues that possibly could not translate it. The NFL is a big responsibility, and you're in the big spotlight, so it's a real big deal that you have character issues taken care of before you make it in there. But it's not always about underclassmen. There are some players that get drafted and still do not pan out, or they're not going to be good enough to make it yet. This developmental league can help these players. For example, in the 6th round, the New York Jets, they selected Taj Boyd, a quarterback out of Clemson. He was not going to start. He wasn't even going to be the backup. He needed more time to develop. So he actually recently signed with the FXFL and is playing in the league right now and is doing very well, might I say. But the FXFL is not just for players. It's also for coaches and for referees. We all remember the NFL replacement ref season in which many blown calls were made. Fans were unhappy, players were unhappy, coaches were unhappy, the league was unhappy, until they finally got it resolved. This developmental league can be used to train these referees in case if a strike or anything were to happen again, that they could have backup refs ready to come in and not be such a huge disaster as such as last time. For coaches, there are many young coaches that are in the translation stage between college and the NFL. They might be too good for college, but they're not ready enough for the NFL. This developmental league can show their potential, or it can show if they're going to be a bust or not. It's really going to help everyone all around in the sport. Another thing that FXFL can be good at is a platform to experiment with rules. Instead of having the NFL experiment with rules during the preseason or during the regular season, it can be used as a way to test the waters with fans, coaches, and players in the FXFL. It would be a good platform to see whether these rules make a difference in the game or have a subtle difference, or they completely change the game, in which the case they wouldn't want to experiment with these things. So why would the NFL want to use the FXFL as a developmental league? First off, it's going to be a low-cost venture for them with high upside and low risk. It wouldn't be that much money to spend on the FXFL to use it as a developmental league. And all the pros of it could be very beneficial to what the league is building. They could increase their fan base by tremendously. Imagine, a lot of these players that are going to be playing in the FXFL still have fan bases back from their college days. Their talents might not have translated all the way over to the NFL just yet, but they still probably have fans and family and different things that are watching every move that they make. Imagine if the NFL were to be able to pull off someone of the caliber of Tim Tebow, someone who wasn't ready for the NFL, not a prototypical quarterback, but could still shine in the FXFL playing against people of his similar talents. They could build a huge fan base, and the marketing would be extremely beneficial. If the NFL were to use the FXFL as a developmental league, they could help reduce the risk of losing players to the arena football and Canadian football, as well as losing fans that don't want to watch the NFL and would rather watch those other sports. They could watch these younger, talented players in the FXFL instead of going somewhere else. So that's always a plus. Another thing that's beneficial for the NFL is that the teams can use the minor league system to stash players. If each team had a minor league team in the FXFL, they could use that to keep players that they were reluctant to get rid of, but still thought that they needed more time to develop into the NFL. It would be a really good system considering all the transactions that are made and dropped and added from the practice squad, instead having them develop in the FXFL, and then when they're ready enough to be able to just move them up. So let's look at some of the reasons why the NFL wouldn't want to use FXFL as a developmental league. First, let's talk about competitive balance, which our books talks about. In order to keep the league balanced, they have a certain amount of roster spots and practice squad members that they can keep on their team. And the rest of the players must be released and can be picked up by other teams through waivers and different options. A lot of these teams rely on the waivers to pick up some of the players because not everyone has a great draft class. If they had the minor league system, the good teams could always just stash their players in the minor league system and they would never be able to flow and make a competitive unbalance in the league. Another issue that could come that the NFL might not want to use the FXL for is because of salary cap reasons. So say we have a person that's in the NFL making $13 million, while you have someone in the minor league system that's making about $2,000 a week. If the person in the NFL were to get injured, or if he were to not perform to the level that's expected of him, and they want to bring up the minor league person, if they bring the person from the NFL back down to the minor league, that throws off the whole salary cap. So imagine the minor league had a salary cap number. You can't just pay that player less for his performance issues without releasing him. But say they didn't want to release that player. How on earth would they be able to maintain a proper salary cap if the teams are just moving players up and down? Another reason that the NFL might not want to use the FXFL as a developmental league is because they would have to significantly increase the rounds for a draft. Now this could lead to fatigue of the sport and other consequences that the NFL might not want to deal with. In order to fill out a full minor league roster, the NFL teams would have to draft a lot more players in order to fill both their NFL team and their FXL team. I believe the NFL should definitely use the FXFL as a minor league / developmental system. The benefits of training these players that aren't quite ready for the NFL to be ready is great. You can also use it to train coaches that are in between ranks between college and the NFL to see if they are ready to make that transition. You can have great offensive mind, great defensive minds, but they don't know if they're ready. This would be a great system to help them with that. Referees can be trained to make the same calls instead of having the disaster that we had a couple years back with the replacement referees. I think the NFL should definitely spend the money and go ahead and buy out the FXFL and use the system instead of letting it grow and then possibly having to spend more money on something that they're going to buy anyways. So what do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think, if they should use FXFL as a minor league / development system, or you think it's a bad idea.